Okay, so I decided to make a video for everybody who has been wondering and asking me a lot of questions about the IVF process and my experience with it. Um, so I just wanted to first off start off by saying that at the beginning of this, at the beginning of 2020, I did not have any idea that I was going to be doing IVF or that I even wanted to do IVF. I did a little bit of research on it, and it was something that was like a possibility for me and my partner, but not something that I was like, let's do this. But I did get put on a waiting list. For everybody who's wondering, waiting list for IVF from between about a year to 3 years, depending on what area you're from. So if you're wanting to get put onto a list, you should definitely do it as soon as possible and get into your fertility clinic for all the couples who are trying to do this, because it is a very long waiting list, and it can be very frustrating when you are finally ready to have a baby with somebody and then you are told, oh, you have to wait 3 years to do this, especially in the gay community, guys. It's quite a long wait to wait, right? So like I said, IVF wasn't my first option that I really wanted to do. I really wanted to try an IUI, which, in case anybody doesn't know, is sperm insemination. And sperm runs between about $850 to $1,000 in Canada. Extra charges if you're ordering from the States, it kind of depends. And an IUI is about an average of about $1,500 altogether, and that's including your sperm and your doctor's fees, which isn't too expensive. I mean, it's pretty reasonable. So I decided that I was going to go in at the beginning of the year, and I was going to try an IUI. I wanted to, and when I went in, everything seemed fine. I was doing my blood work, getting my ultrasounds. Everything seemed normal to me. And then my doctor had randomly said, like, hey, like, I really want to try this exam with you. He's like, it's just to make sure that your tubes are open before the IUI. He's like, would you like to do this? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And for anybody who doesn't know, to check if your fallopian tubes are open or closed, it costs about roughly $100 to get that exam done. So I went ahead with that exam, and at the end of that, I got the result of both of my tubes being closed, which was really difficult for me to understand. It really didn't make sense. And so I had asked, I said, like, please, like, I would really like another. And so I went to the hospital, and my doctor came. He performed that exam again. And for anybody who doesn't know about the fallopian tube exam, it's a very simple procedure. It can be a little bit painful, but nothing too crazy. It's basically like getting a physical done and then having some like pinching during it and cramping. Nothing worse than your period, really. It's a little bit of like bleeding. And it's just where they open you up like a physical, and they put fluids in like water and fill up and try to see if it'll pass through your tubes. And then in some cases, some doctors use dyes as well to see it through the ultrasound to see if it runs through or if it doesn't. And then they can tell exactly where, if you have a blockage, where your blockage is and what's causing it. So I got that exam done again for the second time, and they had told me, they said, no, like, your tubes are 100% closed. And I said, like, how is this possible? Why is this possible? Like, how did this happen? And my doctor really had no reason or no explanation for me as to like why I could have possibly been blocked. And he said he has no idea. So that was pretty frustrating for me. And I really didn't get the answers that I really wanted. So at that time again, like, I did ask again for another exam, and at this time, this is when the worldwide shutdown kind of happened. So it was really, really frustrating to me because my heart was like devastated and broken. Like, when you are a woman, you do not want to hear that your tubes are closed and that you cannot have babies. A lot of women go through this, and it's honestly the most heartbreaking thing ever. It destroys your heart knowing that you can't have kids, or that you can't do something, that your body is not working. Like, it was definitely the most difficult thing that I ever have been through. And my heart hurt for a very long time, and especially because with the lockdown and everything, I wasn't able to go to the doctors and figure anything out. Everything was shut down. So I got this news, and then basically bam, everything was shut down, and I just kind of had to sit with it for months. And as the months went by, like, I was just really uneasy, and I didn't want to believe that, you know, like, my tubes were blocked. Like, it didn't make sense. You don't have an explanation. Like, it can't be. So I fought it, and I begged my doctor when they reopened again about late spring, early summer. I begged them again to open up to open up and to give me this exam again. And so they did another exam, and I said, please, like, sedate me this time. I think I'm, like, tensing up, and that's why my tubes are closing. Like, I'm just so tense. Like, sedate me, please. Like, this has to be the reason. And, you know, he caved in, and he was like, okay, like, I'll do this for you. And it ended up being that, you know, like, my tubes were still closed. So after that, I still didn't really want to believe, like, when you don't get an explanation for something as to why something is, it's like your brain doesn't want to process it. And my brain definitely didn't want to process the fact that, like, my tubes were closed with no explanation. Like, you can't just tell me that that's what it is and there's no reason for it. So I begged him again, and I said, please, like, let me do the IUI. Like, I want to try the IUI. I know that it's a long shot, and I just want to see if it'll work or not. And so he agreed, and we started with the IUI, and obviously, like, it did not work. My tubes are definitely blocked, and me and my wife were definitely really hurt about this when we found out that it didn't work. We truly believed that, like, it was going to, and that the doctors were wrong, and we really wanted to prove them wrong and be like, no, like, the tubes aren't blocked. But that wasn't it. And as soon as I went back into the doctors, that's when they had suggested, like, you know, IVF again. And I was actually going in to talk about IVF next, because obviously that was our next option for me to carry anyways. So I went in to go get a little bit of more background information about IVF and what that would look like, what the cost would be, how long it would take, everything like that. And basically they said that they had moved me up on the waiting list, and that basically it's like now or never. Like, we had to do it right now. Like, it had to be. And for me and my wife, like, we were a little confused as to, like, why it was so, like, rushed and not even, like, thought about. Like, we really didn't have a chance to even, like, sit down and really discuss with each other about, like, what we wanted and, like, how it was gonna work and, like, how we were gonna figure this out together. Because in the beginning of this, like, IVF was, like, the last option, but I wanted to carry her egg, and then I was to carry the baby for us. And with the way that they gave us this option, my wife hadn't even been looked at by the doctor yet, because, like I said, like, this was something that what was on the side. It wasn't even discussed yet, and we were rushed into this decision that we really didn't even want. But we were scared because of shutdowns again and being shut down again. And he said, basically, you know, if you guys don't take this, this is your last chance. Like, you're off of it. Like, you have to wait for your next time. Like, it could be months, it could be another year, you don't know. And, you know, like, that scared us, considering the amount of time that we've waited and tried and fought to have this baby. So we really had to make a last minute decision and say, like, is this gonna work for us? Can we do this? And I think that we were both really frustrated that, like, our plans had changed and that we weren't really getting what we truly wanted. but at the end of the day, we wanted this baby. So we told the doctor, like, you know, like, yeah, we'll take this opportunity, and we'll start. And basically we got a week's heads up, and we were thrown into this process. And this is such a heavy process to understand and to take in, and I don't think a lot of women really understand like what it is to go through this, and how much it changes you, and how much medications you take, and how much toll it takes on your body, and how much you change as a person, and how much exams you're getting, how much like things change, and your mental, like, you have to be so mentally strong for this. That's why in a lot of articles you will read, and doctor's notes, like, you will read like you were supposed to go through counseling beforehand to make sure that you are ready and fully understand like what you were putting yourself through and what it really entails. But because of Corona and everything like that, and everything being so fast paced, like, we didn't get that option. We weren't in counseling. We weren't talked to or explained anything. Like, it was just, here it is. Are you ready? And we had to take it because we were so scared that if we didn't, like, it wasn't gonna happen for us again. So I started my medications about a week after I was told, and I was put on to 2 different medications my first time. One being like an EpiPen, and the other being a pill. And it was a lot. It was a lot of needles, shots every single day. Could be quite painful. I had to do it right about like in my stomach area, right around here, for my EpiPen. And I feel like I'm just gonna make a separate video about costs and everything like that. For that video, because there's a lot about the costs and secrets and everything like that that the doctors definitely don't tell you. So I started medications on that, and that lasted about 2 to 3 weeks. Nothing was really explained to me, and it was a lot to handle, and the doctors didn't explain anything to us. And every single day that we went in there, it was a new medication, it was something else, or this and that, and they were not helpful at all. Like, it was a very scary process for me, and definitely for my partner, because like, she obviously knew that I was very worked up about like what was going on at this doctor's office. And I was really nervous because my egg retrieval was coming up. And if any of you have researched about what happens during an egg retrieval, it's extremely painful, and it's definitely the worst part about IVF. The best way I can explain it, for anybody who's ever had kids before, it feels as painful as giving childbirth. Honestly, like, it hurts so fucking bad. So I was on a bunch of medications. They swelled up my whole entire body. I looked like I was probably like 6 or 7 months pregnant when I was taking these medications. It was insane. My hormones were out the roof. I was miserable. I was just miserable. It wasn't a good experience, and because everything was really fast and we were spending so much money on these medications that we needed, apparently, you know, it wasn't really enjoyable for us. Like, I personally, like, I did not enjoy the experience of anything about it. So the day that I went into my doctor's office for another checkup, and this was about a week and a half after I started taking medications, they had told me that I could go home for the weekend and that I was fine, but they had to give me medications, and they were going to send me over a prescription and everything for me to go pick up. And the doctors actually messed up and didn't send over a medication for me, and I wasn't able to take my medications all weekend. And like, when you're in the middle of this, like, missing your medication can destroy everything. Like, missing one day destroys almost everything for you, and you have to be so careful. The doctors are trying to get at least at least 6 to 10 eggs out of your body, depending on how much you produce. For me, I have a very healthy body other than my tubes, so I'm 26 years old. I had about 20 eggs altogether, 10 on each side, in my ovaries. So they were trying to produce at least 10 for me, if not more. And I'm telling you, if they could have got 20 out of me, they would have got 20 out of me. Anyways, so the medication that was supposed to produce my eggs, they forgot to give me, and forgot to give me my prescription for that, and sent me home, and didn't hear anything. Everything was shut that weekend. They were shut down. No one was answering for me, which I was really frustrated. So I went back in and didn't even call. I just went back in the next Monday morning, and I rushed there and I said, like, I haven't taken my medication. I never got it. You guys didn't answer. The nurse didn't send over my medication. I said, I haven't taken this. Like what's going on with me? So they did a bunch of blood work and ultrasounds. They gave me the shot right away. But the doctor looked at me and said, you know, like, he's like, I don't know how this is gonna affect you, but the way that it's looking, it doesn't look very good. At this point, I'm very hormonal. Like, I'm on so many medications, I'm losing my mind, and I'm a wreck. And so the doctor comes to me and he's like, it's not looking very good. Like, you missed this medication. Your levels are like crazy right now. Like it's not gonna work for you. And they said, like, listen, like, how do you feel about, like, you know, not doing the IVF and like doing an IUI? And like, for me, that was so confusing, because like, you were supposed to know that I already did an IUI. Why are you asking me again to do an IUI and not waste this cycle, pretty much? But you know that an IUI isn't gonna work for me because my tubes are blocked. Like, just blatantly, like, telling me, like, you don't care about me, and you don't know anything about my file or my history and anything like that, to even offer me something like that. And to sit there while I'm in the middle of a cycle and basically tell me there's nothing that you might be able to do because my levels are too out the roof and might not work anymore for this IVF process, because of your nurse's fault, and then tell me there's nothing you could do, and that I'm just gonna have to do an IUI, which you know isn't gonna work for me. I had a complete mental breakdown in their office, bawling my eyes out, because like, I just went through the most. Me and my partner just went through the most to do all of this, to get all this ready in such a short period of time, and like suck everything up just so we could get this done. And then you're gonna sit here and say that it's like, we can't do this, and that you want me to do an IUI that you know that I can't do, and that you're not gonna take responsibility for what you did to me and not giving me my medications, knowing that when you take these medications and the doctors fuck up, they don't reimburse you, they don't give you refunds for anything you have paid for your medications, nothing. And the doctors will sit here and press and press and press for you to buy these medications, some that you don't even need. So that was a really frustrating part for me. I ended up getting my levels sorted out eventually, and it ended up being okay, thank God. I ended up having to buy more medication, and be on it a little bit longer. A couple days before my egg extraction, they told me to take these pills to kind of like sedate on my bottle, and what they said was, like, take one and 2 hours before you go into your procedure. So like, okay, I take one. There's 3 in the bottle, so I assumed that some were for afterwards, for the pain and everything like that. So I was cool with it. I followed the directions. I took one, and we drove there, and obviously everybody knows, like, right now, and if you don't know, your partner is not allowed in with you when you go for anything for these procedures, due to Corona, because you're not allowed to have extra people in the room with you. So prepare yourselves for that. I went downstairs, got ready, got in my robe, everything like that. The nurse was just asking me some questions, and she was like, hey, like, did you take all your medication? Like, you took all 3 of them? And I said 3, and she's like, yeah, 3, you were supposed to take 3. And I said, no, like, it said to take 1 on my bottle, and my doctor said to take 1. And she was like, oh, you're supposed to take 3. She's like, I need you to take the other 2 right now. And I said, well, that would be nice if, like, you know, I brought it. Because I assumed that, like, I wasn't taking it because they had told me that I wasn't. And so I wasn't properly medicated, and they still did the procedure for me. They give you a little bit of, like, morphine, but even still, like, I felt a majority of it, and it was extremely, extremely painful. Like, I bawled my eyes out, and I really felt alone. Like, my partner wasn't there to support me, and, like, it was just such a horrible experience. And I'm, like, crying to them, telling them that, like, you know, like, I feel this, I really feel this, like, it's hurting. And they said, like, we can't give you anything else, like, we can't, there's nothing we can do for you, we're almost halfway done, like, let's just get this done. So basically I had to suck it up and finish the procedure and feel all of the pain that I was feeling, which it's a lot. Like, it's a huge needle around about this size that breaks through the wall of your vagina inside and goes to your ovaries. And they keep doing that for every single egg. I ended up receiving about 9 eggs at the end of it that were above average and that were good. So after that, they had called me a couple days later and said, hey, like, 8 of your eggs survived, and they're doing okay. We'll call you in another few days to tell you how well it's going. But a couple days later, I got another call again, and they said, oh, you have 6 embryos that have become perfect. They're above average. They're amazing. They're doing very well, which was great news for me and my partner. Like, 6 was more than enough for us. Like, it was definitely, like, one of the happiest moments, like, hearing, like, oh, you're perfect, your embryos are fine. And again, during Corona, you have options to freeze your eggs or not freeze your eggs. But because of Corona, there is nothing that they can do. So basically you're paying for freezing of your eggs, which, again, like I said in my next video, I will share all the costs and kind of the hidden things that they don't tell you about it. After my egg retrieval, again, I was on medications for quite a few weeks. It's never ending with the medications. Get used to being on medications if you want to go through IVF. It's all medications every single day, multiple, and it's really frustrating, and it does a lot to your body, and it's constantly changing and going back and forth, and it's a lot. And then I finally got an answer about my embryo transfer, which was kind of a little bit confusing at the time because everywhere was talking about shutting down again. And I actually did my embryo transfer in Mississauga at RCC, for everybody who wants to know. I did my embryo transfer there. And as everybody knows, like, it went into red zone in November, early December. And that's kind of when they were trying to look at, like, end of November for me. And so I was a little scared because they hadn't given me an answer about whether or not we were going to be able to do this. And now I was scared because we were in red zone, and that means things were shutting down, and we weren't going to be able to do this. So we got those embryos for nothing that we couldn't transfer over. It was just a huge panic attack. Definitely not a good experience this year doing this with everything, like, shutting down unexpectedly. Thankfully, they stayed open for the people who had already done everything and were on medications. So I did do my embryo transfer. It was super easy, super simple, did not hurt, very exciting. Again, my wife was not in the room with me. We ended up FaceTiming through that. Which is, you know, like, not really quite the experience you want to experience when you're doing IVF. Like, you want your partner there. It's such a beautiful moment to have your baby put inside of you. And it was quite frustrating, I mean, but I was just happy that it was finally done. And I don't know, most women know about their body, some women don't. Personally, I know my body very well. The next day I felt it implant. They usually say about a week or so. If you know your body and you pay attention to your body, you can definitely know when you implant. The next day I was super crampy and I felt it, and I just knew. I said, this worked. I implanted. I ended up taking a pregnancy test even before I was even supposed to, and I was pregnant. So it said it was like a fainter line. I think my hormones were just starting to raise. And then about another week and a half later, I took another one with my wife, and it was like sure shot, pregnant. I did surprise her when I found out as well too. I can post a video about that. So yeah, it did work the first time. Would I suggest it? Probably not. I mean, there's a million different things that could be wrong with your body. Thankfully, like mine was only my tubes, so IVF was a really 100% sure thing for me for the most part, says the doctors, because it bypasses your tubes, and everything else seemed to be really, really healthy. So I wasn't really nervous about it working or not working. I knew it was going to work the first time, and it did. For a lot of other women, I know that's not the case, depending on how good your eggs are, how good the sperm is, how good the embryos are. The freezing process is also a huge thing. Are the embryos able to survive the freezing and unfreezing and thawing and everything like that? Which is a really scary thing. That's why I think they try to get as many eggs as you can, because if you lose one of those eggs and you only have a limited supply, like, that's a big thing. But it definitely did work for us, and we are super happy and can't wait to find out what it is. And we're excited to actually be going through the pregnancy experience on a lot more positive note. The experience was just horrible, and honestly, like, I wish I could get into more detail about like what really happened behind the scenes, and all I can say is like, prepare yourselves and expect the unexpected. And it's really not as much as it seems. The doctors, you know, sometimes aren't the greatest, and they don't give you much information, and they kind of just put you in situations like they did with me, that are the greatest. I think I'm just like the happiest to be over with it and to be enjoying this now, because like for the last year my heart has broke I think 1,000,001 times, and I didn't think I was honestly gonna make it through. Like it's so much on your body and it's so much on your mind. So for anybody who's honestly trying to go with IVF, make sure that you're ready, make sure that you're mentally prepared, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, what it entails, how much it's gonna be, what medications you're taking. I definitely wouldn't suggest IVF to anybody who needed to, that it was their last option. I know a lot of people do, especially in the gay community. You want to carry your person's egg, everything like that. Have that discussion. Make sure you know what you want, because these medications are dangerous. The things that they can do to you, the things that they can cause to your body, heart attacks, strokes, cancers, and like so much more things that they don't tell you. It's really scary, and I definitely wouldn't do it unless I had to do it. So I think that's something that a lot of people need to really understand before they get into this. Is it something that you can handle? Is it something that you truly want? Are you okay with how it's going to be and with how it's going to turn out? Are you okay with the side effects? Are you okay if something was to happen to you on these medications? Personally, I would do IUI above anything, if I was given that opportunity. So anybody who can, I suggest that you do that first. because I did not have a really good experience with IVF, even though I did end up getting pregnant. It just wasn't a happy time for me. And it's definitely not what everybody makes it out to be. It can be beautiful, but it has a lot of ugly moments. So I would really think about it and weigh your options. I am going to be posting a video about all the pricing. For everybody who really wants to know, I'm going to be making a video tomorrow about pricing and all the medications that you need, OHIP coverage and what that covers, what it does not cover, what they don't tell you it covers, because that's a whole different situation. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll try my best to answer them. Yeah.